She was 13, flying first class on a reward from her dad. Minutes before takeoff, a flight attendant asked her to give up her seat for a white woman from coach, and nobody said a word. But one quiet text to her father changed everything. Sariah Duval's feet barely touched the floor as she sank into the plush leather seat of 2A. Her legs swung slightly, nerves buzzing with quiet excitement. She ran her fingers along the polished armrest, then glanced out the window, the runway stretching like an open road. First class. Her first time. She could hardly believe it. It wasn't even her birthday. It wasn't a holiday or a trip for some big event. This flight from Portland to Newark was her dad's way of saying, well done. She'd just completed a 2-week STEM leadership camp at Oregon State, the only black girl in her cohort, and also the youngest. Her father, Rennick Duval, had booked her a VIP seat to celebrate the accomplishment. He told her on FaceTime the night before, smiling wide, his salt and pepper beard barely hiding how proud he was. I want you to fly like you're going somewhere, he'd said. Because you are. She packed the night before carefully. Her hoodie was neatly folded over her tote bag, a fresh notebook tucked inside, and a copy of Kindred by Octavia Butler balanced on top. That was her read for the flight, her dad's recommendation. Now she reached for the book and opened to the dog-eared page, flipping quickly past the first few chapters. She wanted to get lost in it, maybe finish the whole thing before they landed. But that didn't happen. It started with a flicker of motion beside her. A flight attendant, blonde bob, bright lipstick, badge that read Tamra, paused at her row. Tamra gave her a brief glance, then looked down at her tablet, tapped the screen once and leaned in slightly. Hi, sweetie, she said, voice clipped. There's been a seating issue. I'm going to need you to move. Sariah blinked. Move where? Tamra's smile tightened. We have a preferred guest who needs this seat. I'll get you a place in the back. It won't take long. Sariah's face flushed. She looked down at her boarding pass. 2A. Clear as day. She looked back up. But this is my seat. I didn't do anything wrong, Tamra exhaled quietly, shifting her weight. I understand. But sometimes adjustments have to be made. If you'll just gather your things, I'll help you to the other seat. Sariah didn't move. For a second, she just stared. She wasn't being loud. She wasn't resisting. She was confused. That was all. The attendant's tone dipped just a little more. It'll only take a minute, okay? People were watching now. A man in 2B glanced over, uncomfortable. A woman across the aisle frowned slightly but said nothing. Sariah felt all of it. She stuffed her book in her tote bag and stood up slowly, pressing her lips together. She followed Tamra down the narrow aisle. The eyes followed too. They placed her in 34C, a middle seat, between a young guy in a Seahawks jersey and a sleepy older woman in scrubs. The air smelled like peanuts and sanitizer. Her knees pressed into the tray in front of her. She didn't cry, but her throat burned. She pulled out her phone and typed a short message to her father. No explanation, no extra words. They made me give my seat away. Then she slid the phone back into her hoodie pocket and stared ahead. No one said anything to her, not Tamra, not the other crew, not even the passengers sitting nearby. Just silence. But back in Tacoma, Rennick Duval had just read her message, and he wasn't silent. Rennick Duval didn't panic when the message came through. He read it once. Then again. They made me give my seat away. No punctuation, no emoji, no follow-up, just that. He was in his office, 3rd floor of a glass building near Ruston Way, with a view of the water. His assistant had just stepped out to grab lunch. The place was quiet. Rennick sat with one hand resting on a stack of grant proposals, the other still holding his phone. He didn't move right away. He wasn't new to this feeling, this sudden flicker behind the eyes, the one where something feels wrong, not catastrophic, but not small either. A silent shift. He opened the airline app, checked the flight. It hadn't taken off yet. Still on the tarmac. He didn't call Sariah, didn't text back. He knew better than to cause a scene while she was trapped on a plane 30,000 feet away from help. Instead, he tapped his contacts and scrolled down until he found the name. Dorian Sedgwick. They hadn't spoken in 3 months, not since that energy summit in San Diego. But the connection was still there. Dorian was on the board at Altisphere Air. They had met years ago during a panel on sustainable infrastructure and bonded over raising daughters in a tech world not built for them. Rennick tapped the name. The phone rang twice. "Rennick," Dorian answered. "What's going on?" "I need you to check something. Quietly." "Okay." Dorian's voice shifted. "What's wrong?" "My daughter is on Flight 719, just boarded at PDX, assigned to first class, 2A. A crew member moved her to the back without explanation. Said the seat was needed for a preferred guest." Silence. Then, "What? She's 13. Dorian exhaled. "Jesus. I'm not asking for a scene. I'm not asking for a press release," Rennick said, voice low, firm. "But I want to know what protocol allows a child, with a confirmed first-class ticket, to be bumped mid-boarding for a passenger who didn't pay for that seat. I'll look into it, personally." "Good." He hung up. Sat back. Still didn't text Sariah. She didn't need pressure. She needed peace. He trusted her. But more than that, he trusted himself. He knew the difference between a misunderstanding and something that felt deliberate. Back on the plane, Sariah stared at the seat in front of her, motionless. The captain had just made an announcement about turbulence. The woman beside her, the one in scrubs, reached into her tote and offered her a mint. "You okay?" she asked. Sariah shrugged. "I guess. That was your seat up there." "Yeah?" The woman paused. "That was wrong." Sariah nodded slightly. But it didn't help much. Her stomach still felt heavy, not because of the move itself, but because no one else had said anything. Everyone just watched. No explanation, no apology, just a quiet rearranging, as if she didn't matter. She wondered if the woman in 2A knew the seat wasn't hers. She wondered if that woman had asked for it, or just accepted it without question. She wondered if she should have stayed put, if she should have spoken up. But it was hard to speak up when everything told you to be polite. The flight eventually took off. The engine roared beneath them, and Sariah opened her book again, but she couldn't concentrate. The words blurred. Her fingers gripped the pages, but she kept rereading the same line over and over. Somewhere mid-flight, her dad finally replied. Just 3 words. "Got it handled." That was all. But in a boardroom in Seattle, the first internal email had just been sent, and people were already beginning to talk. By the time Sariah's plane touched down in New Jersey, Rennick Duval was already on his second call of the day. Not with a lawyer, not with the press. He wasn't interested in headlines. Not yet. He was on the phone with Lauren Bracknell, a quiet but sharp compliance officer at Altisphere Air. She was the kind of person who didn't need noise to get things done. Rennick liked that about her. He didn't yell, he didn't threaten. He simply laid out the facts. His daughter, 13 years old, assigned to seat 2A on a paid first-class ticket, was asked, without explanation, to give up her seat to an adult in economy. And no one explained why. Lauren was already 3 steps ahead. I saw the internal thread about this late this morning. Dorian flagged it personally. It's already been escalated to the regional supervisor. They're reviewing gate logs and flight crew decisions. I just pulled your daughter's boarding record. Everything's legit. She checked in early, no errors. Rennick didn't respond right away. He stared out the window of his office, watching a ferry cut through the bay. Then he asked, "Was the woman who took her seat upgraded due to frequent flyer status?" Lauren's voice lowered. "That's one possibility. But even then, they should have bumped someone without a confirmed first-class seat. And certainly not a minor flying alone. Can you tell me who made the decision? That's what we're digging into. So far, it looks like it was pushed by the lead flight attendant, possibly at the gate level, too. Could have been a quick judgment call, but that doesn't excuse it." Rennick leaned forward. His voice was measured. "This isn't just about a bad call. This is about who gets protected and who gets moved without question." Lauren didn't argue. "I hear you. I'll keep you updated." He ended the call and sat back, finally exhaling. He looked down at his watch. Sariah's plane should have landed. He texted, "You good?" A few minutes later she replied, "Yeah, just tired." That cut deeper than he expected. Not mad. Not even scared. Just tired. He stared at her message for a long moment before picking up his phone again. This time, he called Tyler Obasi, an old friend who ran a small but respected PR firm in Tacoma. "I don't need a press push," Rennick told him, "but I want you to monitor social. Something happened to Sariah today. It might stay quiet or it might not. Either way, I want to be ready." Tyler didn't hesitate. "On it." While Rennick worked the phones, Sariah wheeled her suitcase toward the pickup zone at Newark Liberty. Her Aunt Noreen spotted her from the car, hopped out, and waved her over. Sariah smiled, but it was small. "Hey, baby!" Noreen pulled her into a hug, squeezing her tight. "Look at you, my little traveler." Sariah let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "Hey, you hungry? We got time before the Holland Tunnel. Want to stop for fries?" "Yeah." She nodded. "Fries sound good." She didn't bring up the flight. Not yet. Noreen didn't ask, just turned up the music a bit, humming along to an old Lauryn Hill track as they pulled onto the freeway. But somewhere between mile markers and toll booths, Sariah's phone buzzed again. A text from a classmate back home. "You okay? I saw a post about a kid getting moved off a first-class seat. It wasn't you, right?" Her stomach turned. But by the time she refreshed her feed, the post had already been shared over 2,000 times, and people had questions. Lauren Bracknell's inbox was flooded by 7:40 the next morning. Not press, not passengers. Internal. Flight crew reports, time-stamped logs, gate transcripts. Someone from corporate legal had already flagged the flight. The subject line read, PDX 718, Seat Reassignment, Priority Review. She clicked the folder open and started digging. Flight 718. Boarded on time. Gate C4, Portland International Airport. Final destination, Newark Liberty. Lead gate agent, Brenda Heller. Flight service manager, Martin Reese. Assigned lead flight attendant, Tamra Gibbons. Lauren's eyes narrowed. Tamra. The same name Rennick had mentioned. She clicked through the incident timeline. There was a log entry about a seat adjustment requested by crew to accommodate Platinum Tier flyer. But the name of the flyer? Redacted. She picked up the phone and called Martin Reese. He answered on the third ring. "Reese? This is Bracknell. You were the onboard manager on 718 yesterday." "Yeah. Something wrong. I'm reviewing a reassignment decision. Seat 2A. Young girl was moved to the back mid-boarding. Can you walk me through that?" Reese sighed, long and loud. "That was Tamra's call. Said there was a platinum flyer bumped from first class on a previous leg, and corporate told us to prioritize them next opportunity. She flagged the kid's seat. Told me it was a booking issue." "Did you verify?" "I asked if the girl had the wrong boarding pass. Tamra said it was a mix-up and she'd handle it. I didn't press. Did you see the passenger?" Reese hesitated. "Yeah, she looked confused, but calm." Lauren's tone sharpened. "She's 13. She was flying alone." "I didn't know that." Lauren didn't respond. She was already typing. In Tacoma, Rennick stood in his kitchen, scrolling through his phone while his coffee brewed. Tyler Obasi had sent him 3 links already. Blog posts, Facebook rants, and a short clip from a TikTok where someone on the flight described a young black girl getting pushed out of first class. Rennick read it all without blinking. The comments underneath were already rolling in. Some people were skeptical. Others weren't surprised. Then a name showed up. A former Altisphere employee. She didn't say much, just, "This isn't the first time I've seen this kind of thing on our routes." Rennick forwarded the post to Lauren. No subject line. Lauren saw it 15 minutes later. She sent him a 1-line reply. "We're moving on it." Back on the East Coast, Sariah sat in her aunt's kitchen, a bowl of cereal in front of her, mostly untouched. Noreen was on a Zoom call in the next room, but she kept glancing over with quiet concern. "Anything you want to talk about, baby?" she asked during a break. Sariah shook her head, but her fingers tightened around the spoon. "It's fine. Doesn't seem fine. I didn't make a scene," Sariah said softly. "I just moved. Like she told me to. That doesn't mean it was okay." Sariah kept her eyes on the bowl. "What was I supposed to do? Argue?" "No," Noreen said gently. But that doesn't mean you have to carry it like you did something wrong. They sat in silence for a while. The spoon clinked against the ceramic. Then Sariah asked, "Why didn't anybody say anything?" Noreen looked at her. "Because most people don't know how to handle things that feel wrong. So they look away. Doesn't make them right." Sariah didn't answer, but she looked out the window at the quiet street outside and wondered how many times things like that happened to kids like her without anyone noticing. Back in Seattle, the audit team held a closed-door meeting by 11:30 a.m. Lauren presented the log findings, matching timestamps to witness notes. Several inconsistencies came up. The biggest? The preferred guest had no logged upgrade, no official rebooking into first class. Tamra had made the decision manually. Her reasoning? She looked tired and deserved to be comfortable. The audit team went quiet. No mention of Sariah's age, no mention that the seat had been confirmed. Just an assumption. One passenger could be moved, the other should be moved. Lauren closed her laptop and looked around the room. "We have a policy issue and a perception problem. We can't ignore it." But 2 floors above, a VP had already gotten word of the trending post, and a strategy team was preparing for damage control. By late afternoon, a screenshot was everywhere. It showed a Facebook post by a woman named Rena Huxley, seated 2 rows behind first class on Flight 719. Her photo captured Sariah standing awkwardly in the aisle, tote bag slung over her shoulder, eyes staring off to the side. The caption read, "This young girl was asked to give up her seat in first class for a white woman from coach." Nobody said a word, not even the woman who took it. The post wasn't dramatic. It didn't push an agenda. It just told the truth plainly. That's why it took off. Within hours, comments poured in. Why her? Where were the adults? If this was my daughter... Hashtags followed. Memes. News aggregators pulled the story into their rotation. Teen booted from first class hit local feeds by dinner time. One outlet in Eugene ran a headline that read, "STEM student gets bumped so preferred guest can sit first class." What stuck wasn't just the seat. It was the image. A young black girl standing politely, not arguing, not complaining, just being told to move and doing it. That part got to people. Sariah hadn't posted anything. She hadn't spoken to a single journalist. She barely checked her phone. But her name had surfaced. Someone tagged her. Someone else linked her dad's company. Then came the questions. Is she related to Rennick Duval? Isn't that the guy who started Verdatech? Wait, is that the same girl from the Renewable Youth Summit last month? Rennick saw it all. He didn't flinch, didn't call a press conference, but he sent a quiet message to Dorian Sedgwick. "You need to move fast. Public trust doesn't wait." Dorian called him back within 20 minutes. "Rennick," he said, sounding like a man who hadn't slept. "We're doing a full personnel review. Everything points to a breakdown in training and chain of command decisions. There was no corporate authorization for that move." "Good," Rennick said. "But the internet doesn't care about breakdowns. They care about accountability." "I know. We're coordinating with legal and PR. You'll hear an announcement soon. I just wanted you to know, off the record, that this won't get buried. We're not letting this one slide." Rennick paused, then said, "Let me be clear. I don't want a payout. I don't want an apology gift basket. I want people in positions of power to stop making my daughter feel small just because she doesn't look like they expected." Dorian's voice dropped. "We hear you." Meanwhile, Sariah sat on her aunt's couch, half watching reruns of Chopped and half scrolling through her feed. Her fingers moved slowly. She knew what she'd find. She knew her name was out there now. The strangest part was how many people were mad on her behalf. She didn't even feel mad. Not exactly. She felt tired again. When Noreen walked in with a bowl of popcorn, she asked gently, "You want to talk about it?" "Not really." "Okay, then you don't have to." "But it's weird," Sariah added. "Everyone's talking about it, but I didn't even say anything." "You didn't need to," Noreen said. "What happened spoke loud enough." Sariah looked back at the screen. There was another post, this one from someone who worked at the airline, saying they were ashamed but not surprised. Then a video popped up, a woman recounting her own story, bumped from business class to economy after boarding, but she'd argued and refused. They let her stay. That woman didn't look like Sariah. Sariah closed the app. Altisphere Air issued its first public statement 12 hours later. It was stiff, clearly run through legal filters, but the heart of it was this. We are reviewing a personnel decision that occurred on Flight 719 and have temporarily involved staff from duty while we investigate. We are committed to equitable treatment for all passengers. The comments didn't hold back. People called it hollow, corporate, too late. Someone replied, committed to equitable treatment? Then why was a child the one asked to move? And under that, another wrote, because no one thought she'd push back. But 2 crew members were already suspended, and by morning, Tamra Gibbons had deactivated her social accounts. 3 days after the flight, the headline changed. No longer whispers on social media or blurry screenshots on someone's phone. This time, it came directly from Altisphere Air's verified account. 3 crew members dismissed following internal investigation of Flight 718 incident. The post was short, clinical. It named no one, cited a breach of passenger treatment policy, and ended with a line about the airline's renewed commitment to passenger equity. But the public read between the lines. They knew who those 3 crew members were. One was the gate supervisor, Brenda Heller, who authorized the override. Another was Martin Rees, the on-board manager who admitted he never confirmed the decision. The third, Tamra Gibbons, was the one whose voice Sariah still heard when she closed her eyes. No apology, not directly. No letter sent to the family. Just firings and a vague pledge to review procedures. Rennick sat at his desk in Tacoma when the news dropped. His inbox pinged non-stop. Friends, colleagues, journalists, all asking the same thing. Are you going to speak out? But he didn't post. He didn't hold a press event or write an op-ed. He already said what he needed to say, to the people who needed to hear it. Instead, he sent a simple text to Sariah. You're not invisible. They know that now. She didn't reply right away. She was in her aunt's guest room, headphones in, music on low. She'd heard about the firings through a classmate's DM. You saw? You got them fired, girl. The message didn't make her feel powerful. It didn't make her feel vindicated either. It made her feel complicated. She hadn't asked for anyone to be fired. She hadn't demanded anything. All she did was move when she was told, and now people were talking like she'd led a protest. She turned off her music and scrolled again. Articles, think pieces, interview requests. Her name attached to things she hadn't written. Then came the photo again. The one taken mid-flight, her tote bag clutched tight, standing in the aisle like she didn't belong there. That one kept showing up. Again and again. Noreen walked in holding a folded newspaper, the kind you could still buy at the corner store. She placed it on the nightstand. Front page. Quiet grace. Teen's silent move. Sparks loud conversation. Sariah stared at it. I don't want to be anyone's symbol, she said. You're not, Noreen replied. You're a kid who was treated unfairly. People are reacting to that. That's not on you. Sariah looked back down at her hands. I didn't even say anything. You didn't have to. At the airline's headquarters, Lauren Bracknell sat across from her CEO in a glass conference room. The mood was tense. The company had managed to avoid a full media implosion, but public trust had taken a hit. We followed procedure, one of the VPs said. We moved quickly. We issued the statement, terminated staff. People don't remember procedures. Lauren interrupted. They remember how something made them feel. There was a long pause. We need to rethink training, she added. Not just policies, but instincts. Who we prioritize, who we protect, who we believe. That's what failed here. The CEO nodded. Slowly. For once, no one argued. That evening, Rennick opened his laptop and typed something. Not a public post, not for Twitter, just a personal note, saved in his journal folder, titled with the date. He wrote, You want to believe that when your child does everything right, when she works hard, when she leads with kindness, when she earns her place, she'll be protected. But the world doesn't always work like that. Sometimes people need to be reminded that she belongs. He stared at the screen for a while, then closed the laptop. But hundreds of miles away, Sariah was about to say her first words in public since the flight, and no one saw it coming. The auditorium was half full. Teachers, students, a few parents, and some bored-looking 8th graders fidgeting in plastic chairs. It was Career Week at Thornton Middle School in Teaneck, New Jersey. A low-key event, mostly ignored by local press. Nobody expected a moment. Sariah hadn't planned to speak. She was just visiting for the week, tagging along with her Aunt Noreen, who taught math there. But when one of the guidance counselors heard she'd just completed a STEM camp in Oregon, she'd invited her to sit in on a leadership panel. 5 students, 1 mic, a folding table with plastic water bottles. The others introduced themselves first. Student council rep, junior coder, volleyball captain. When it was Sariah's turn, she stood up slowly, tugging at her sleeve. She looked smaller than usual in the oversized hoodie, but her voice was clear when she began. I'm Sariah Duvall. I'm 13. I just finished a leadership camp for girls in science and tech. A few heads turned. Someone whispered. Maybe they recognized the name. Or maybe it was the confidence in her voice. She paused, then kept going. I want to talk about something different today. Not a job or a goal, but something I didn't expect to learn this year. The room quieted a little. I flew to New Jersey alone last week. My dad gave me a first-class ticket. It was his way of telling me he was proud of me. A few teachers exchanged looks. But right before the plane took off, someone asked me to move. They didn't explain much, just said someone else needed the seat more. Sariah didn't raise her voice. She didn't dramatize it. I moved. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. But later I realized I gave up something I earned. And no one asked the person who took my seat if she had earned it. She let that sit. The room stayed silent. It's not just about a plane. It's about who people expect to be in certain places, and who they think is just visiting. She looked at the students in the front row, some wide-eyed now. Sometimes, even when you do everything right, you still get pushed aside, and you start to think maybe you should just stay quiet so you don't make things worse. Sariah gripped the sides of the podium. But I learned something. You don't have to yell to be heard. You don't need a microphone to matter. You just need to know that your place, whatever you worked for, it belongs to you. One of the teachers in the back wiped her eye. So if that ever happens to you, if someone tries to shrink you or silence you or make you feel like you don't belong where you've worked hard to be, don't believe them. Don't shrink. A long pause. The gym was still. I didn't ask to become a headline. I didn't do anything special. I just didn't disappear. She stepped back. One person clapped, then a few more. Then the whole room. Noreen stood off to the side, smiling. She didn't need to say a word. Later that night, back at home, Sariah sat cross-legged on the bed, her phone beside her, screen blank. No apps open, just stillness. She had requests in her inbox, reporters, talk shows, even a book agent. She ignored them all. What she said at the panel wasn't for cameras. It wasn't for clicks. It was for the kid in the 3rd row who kept staring at the floor. The one who probably needed to hear it the most. And maybe, just maybe, for herself too. Let this be the reminder. Sometimes the world tells people to be silent, to move aside, to stay invisible, even when they've done everything right. But those quiet moments of resistance, they echo louder than anything else. You don't always have to fight with fists or fire. Sometimes you fight by staying visible, by standing still, by refusing to disappear. If this story moved you, share it. Leave a comment. And if you've ever been made to feel like you didn't belong, speak up, even if your voice shakes. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this, real, raw, and rooted in truth.